Watch out, VFC, there's another SCAR contender in town, and we're taking a look at it in this episode of the Gear Guide. So for a long time now, if you wanted a good licensed copy of the SCAR, you pretty much had one choice, and it was a great choice, the VFC SCAR. Gun's great, it holds its own, it's got a lot of fantastic details in build, but until now, there's not been any other options. Well, Airsoft GI was gracious enough to send me one of the newest offerings in the SCAR lineup, licensed no less, from WE. But you're thinking WE, it's gonna be a gas blowback, but guess what? This is actually an AEG. From what I understand, there's only a couple vendors out there that actually receive these, so it's kind of in a limited first run to see, I think, how it's gonna take to the market. So what I have here is the light version with the long rail, so the standard carbine length, but it does come in some other variants. It comes in light and heavy, CQB barrel length, which is the shorter barrel on both options, and then of course the full barrel length, just like this one. So you do have pretty much every one of the SCARs you're looking for, no matter what your build. Now externally, you get everything on this metal and polymer where it is on the real SCAR. The upper is actually a nice slick finish, anodized that kind of bronzy gold color, just like on the real SCAR, but it's got this great smooth finish. It almost has like this Teflon feel to it, which I kind of like the way they've done that. And of course it's accented with metal front rails, a metal black lower front rail, and of course the great details of all the metal screws on it as well. Moving to the front, you have the sling attachment points here on the left and the right, real thick metal plate, the front adjustable gas block, just like on the real one, and of course the flip up front sight that's integrated into the gas block. Moving across the monolithic top rail, which is all metal front to rear, you get back to the rear metal flip up sight as well. Again, everything here is just like on the real SCAR. Moving down the back and finishing off the metal portions, you have a single sling attachment point here on the top right and two on the left side, so you really can set this thing up any way you want to for both lefties and righties. And speaking of ambidextrous, just like the real SCAR, you have controls on the lower polymer receiver that are ambi, so no matter which side you're shooting on or what your preference is, you're set. The fire selector works on both sides, and this thing is crisp. It locks into place. You don't have to guess if this thing is in safe, semi, or full. And since most shooters are predominantly right-handed, they did chop down the right-hand side of the receiver, so it's not digging into your hand when you're shooting in the full auto position. Mag release is also the oversized type here on the right, and it has a matching one here on the left. So again, if you're shooting right or left, either one's going to work for you. And on the bolt catch, which it functions and locks back into place, you have the bolt release paddle here, which will lock it back in the front position with a light touch. Again, the stock itself is 6-position adjustable here with a rubber butt plate on the back and adjustable rise on the cheek. And just like on the other SCARs you're familiar with, you take the rear stock off, and that allows you to access the battery compartment. Now the battery compartment is going to fit most of your 11.1 LiPos up to about 2,000 milliamp hours. Also 9.6 batteries are no problem. If you go in with a longer battery, like a 10.8 small type cell, or a little bit longer, you might not be able to bring this all the way down to the 6th position retracted, but it's still gonna fit under here no problem. And of course, just like the real SCAR, the stock does flip to the side. Now what they did opted for, instead of going with the VFC style where they run the power through the hinges, they did go with the alternate style where there's an exposed wire here for your battery. That's what leads it from the mech box into the stock for your battery compartment. Isn't a big deal. I didn't see any issue with this thing getting pinched, but just keep in mind that, you know, you do have an exposed wire here, and if you are going to open and close the stock a lot, it might be something you want to put a little extra sheathing on to protect it so you don't pinch it and get it caught here in the hinges and end up cutting your wires off. Taking out to the range, we used the included 330 round high cap magazine. This one's in tan, and we loaded it up with Airsoft GI 0.20 gram BBs for our chrono test, and we were seeing just a hair over 400 FPS on the chrono straight out of the box. And after it settled in, we saw something right around that 395, 398 mark. So this should be a perfect gun if you guys are doing outdoor skirmishes, and even good for most indoor fields in its current configuration, but fear not, you can always swap in a different spring and tune it down if you need to. And rate of fire was really healthy too. On an 11.1 LiPo, it's 20C LiPo, we were seeing over 22 rounds a second, so this thing is definitely a BB hose. And also the sound of the gun. I know usually that's my barometer to see how well things are tuned under the hood when I don't get a chance to take the mech box apart. And surprisingly, the WE sounded really good. I think they've really stepped up their internals. Not to say that the way they used to do it was bad, but they've really brought that bar up. So yeah, it sounded smooth, it sounded crisp, and definitely at that rate of fire, they're putting a pretty solid motor in this thing to keep that piston moving. So guys, if you've been looking for a SCAR and you've been really wanting to kind of gravitate away from the VFC, take a look at the surprisingly well-built WE AEG SCAR, and you can get these at Airsoft GI. Now the light version here is around $325 US, and then the other versions, the heavy, run around $350 to $360 US, and they even have a DMR variant for right around $425. So guys, what do you think of the WE SCAR lineup after you've had a chance to look at the review here? Do you think this is something you're gonna see more of in the market, something to compete against the VFC version? Do you really like the VFC version, or are you not a fan of SCARs at all? Let me know down there in the comments. That's it for this episode of the Gear Guide. I again wanna thank Airsoft GI for providing the sample for me to review, and I'll see you guys in the next episode where I rise up with the brown coats to try to fight the rebellion.